So welcome back to the Ride Along channel, where once again we're here in Alpe d'Huez in the beautiful heart of the French Alps, where I'm going to run you through my top 3 considerations when you're just starting off ski touring. So this is aimed at people who can ski, want to start making adventures, possibly into the backcountry, possibly you just want to explore the freedom and realise what it's like when you don't have to use lifts or ski around lifts. So never ski toured before, this is the video you want to be watching. So there's 3 areas I'm going to focus on in this video. The first one is about the equipment. What you're using, how it's set up, how it's fitted, how we can make sure the equipment is checked and ready to go ski touring, and a couple of other little knickknacks that might help you along with your ski touring equipment. The second one is the location you choose to go for your first ski touring adventures. Where we're going to be going, what considerations you might take into account for our first ski tour, and the location. The third point I'm going to be looking at is how we actually walk, how we actually ski tour, and a few little ideas just to make it as easy as it possibly can be. And that's the most important thing I think with the ski touring, is saving energy, conserving energy on the way up so you can have a nice time on the way back down. And that's the same for the equipment, the environment, and finally when we're walking. All 3 of those link in together nicely to make sure you've got as much energy as possible conserved from your way up to have a great time on your way back down. Buying ski tour specific equipment is a whole new area of skiing. Different boots, different skis, different bindings, different skins, different crampons, all these extra things that you need to invest in. However, it doesn't have to be that expensive to start with. The more you do it, just like with any sport, of course you're going to have to start spending more and more money, more toys, more bits and bobs that you're going to start finding on the line or in the different shops or your mates are riding with going, that's a great idea, that's a great idea. However, just like when you started skiing for the first time, you rented kit, do exactly the same with ski touring. Most of the local shops around the place rent various different types of ski equipment, not just your traditional alpine skis, but you can also rent touring skis, touring skins, and the crampons that go along with it. And that's the basic setup you need to start ski touring. There's different types of equipment that you might rent from the shop. You might get a frame style binding, which looks a lot more like a traditional alpine binding, but the heel releases, allowing it to be used to climb up as well. Or you might get something with pins on the front of it. Pin style binding needs a specific type of boot, so the pins will lock onto the toe piece and then the heel releases up from that. Either one, they're both aimed at releasing the heel so you can walk much more like you walk normally and less like you'd walk when you're alpine skiing. It's quite important when you first get your equipment from the rental shop or when you first buy it to have a good play with it before you start heading off into the backcountry or even just up the side of the piste where you're going to be starting off. Have a little play and make sure you understand how to clip in, how to clip out for normal skiing and for walking. Have a good play with the skins and understand how they stick to the ski, how you can release them and how you can fold them away, which is what I'm going to have a look at in just a moment. It's how you use the skins. A good tip to begin with is while you're preparing your bag and the skins and getting all your bits and bobs ready, is just to leave the 2 skis base up in the sun just to warm up a little bit. Just a few minutes in the sun with the bases up, get some heat into the bases, and the skins will stick a little bit better to the base when it comes to it. Some skins you'll get will come stuck together, either in half like mine. This is one skin stuck together on itself. Some of them will have a protective weave or cloth or a plastic mesh protecting the glue. Either way, it's fine. Some way they're going to be protected. The glue is going to be stuck away so it's not just getting all the gunk and snow and dirt or anything else onto the glue. And the way that we attach the skin is starting at the tip of the ski and making sure you know which is the tip and the tail. Generally, the tails have a little extendable tag on the back of the skin. Hook the skin tip over the tip of the ski and then start to pull and release the skin just a little bit, so that I can line up the skin with the ski, and there should be on your skin a couple of millimeters gap on either side of the skin so the edge of the ski is showing. Once I've got about a quarter or a third of the skin nicely lined up with the edges of the ski, I'll then lift the ski up, put the tip onto the ground and release the rest of the skin. From the tail of the ski, I can then line up the rest of the skin all the way back, and with a little bit of tension, hook the tail of the skin over the tail of the ski. It's then quite important to make sure that skin is glued on properly. So press down firmly and run fully across the skin, pressing it into the ski. There's nothing more annoying than a skin starting to come off and snow getting between the skin and the ski. It just gets really heavy and wastes a lot of energy. Other key considerations when it comes to your equipment is making sure your boots, if they have one, have been released into walk mode. Slightly different settings on different boots, of course, but check your boots are in walk mode. And while I'm thinking of it, remember, when you get to the top of your climb, make sure they go back into ski mode. There's nothing worse than skiing back down on soft, floppy boots that haven't been clicked back into the correct mode. Little tip on equipment is the poles you use, they don't have to be anything special for ski touring necessarily, or at least not to start with. But if you are going to go into some softer snow, some larger baskets at the bottom of your pole will make a big difference. They'll make it much easier to press onto the soft snow and actually have some resistance underneath it. A small basket will just push through and you'll find the poles are far too small for you. Final considerations when it comes to the equipment is when you're starting your ski touring, as I move into location in a moment, I advise you're going to stay somewhere a little bit central, a little bit safe and close to the piste, but it's worth getting used to having your pack with you anyway. Your pack containing your probe and your shovel, and of course wearing your transceiver underneath you. Your standard backcountry kit. Usually you're going to be learning to ski tour because you want to start exploring some off-piste, so at least get used to carrying the equipment with you. The final key piece of equipment I suggest you carry is the crampons. Now, a lot of ski tourers just won't have the crampons because they've never needed them. For me, it's the sort of thing that is always in my bag just in case. That one time you need them, you'll be so thankful that you carried them for the other 100 or odd tours that you've been going on. Crampons attached to the binding somewhere near the toe plate, and they give an extra bit of grip and resistance in the snow as you're climbing up. They're super useful if you start climbing up anything that's a bit firmer, anything a bit icier, or if it gets really quite wet and slushy in the springtime and your skins just aren't gripping in the snow. Pop on the crampons, no problem at all. And for that extra little bit of weight in your bag, I'll have them with me all the time. Consideration number 2 was about your location and where you choose to start your first ski tour. So when you first start out ski touring, you're aiming to find somewhere nice and mellow, not too steep at all, so you haven't got to worry about the risers on the back of the bindings or how to stand on the ski in too much detail. Somewhere nice and shallow, like this run going up in front of me, is just perfect. If you can find some old skin tracks, it makes it much easier as well. The snow's already bedded in nice and firm, it makes the walking and the route you're choosing, of course, much, much easier too. The third thing about finding a location is I'm really not often into the backcountry. I'm off the piste just because it's a little bit nicer being away from the piste and the lift and other skiers, but I'm still well within the ski area, well within somewhere nice and safe, and just in case anything should happen with my equipment or with me or something I'm not too sure about, at least I can pop back to the piste nice and quickly and make my way back down to sort out whatever the issue may be. So we're on the right equipment, we've found a nice location to start our ski touring adventure. Now we need to start thinking about how we actually take our steps, how we conserve as much energy as possible so we're ready to ski back down. And there's a couple of little things we can do to help that out. The first one is making sure we're sliding the ski, not lifting the ski. Every time you lift the ski and the boot off the snow, you're wasting energy. So just sliding the ski through the snow gives it that nice sort of zip sound across the snow surface, and definitely uses a lot less energy than otherwise lifting. Next thing with your steps is make them just a little bit bigger than what you would normally. Just far enough forward so that your heel touches the ground with each step, and then transfer the weight and rock from side to side. So it's a little bit bigger than you would normally, but not a really big power lunge like you see the cross-country skiers do. Again, just a waste of energy. The reverse of that, of course, you don't want tiny little steps, because then you're just repeating yourself thousands and thousands of times more than necessary. The skis need to be flat on the snow. As long as the skis are flat, the skis will grip. Put them onto their edges like you would ski normally, you'll start to slip. We're going to make sure our skis skate as parallel as they possibly can. A tendency when people start to ski tour is they open up the tips of the skis just a little bit too much and end up dragging the ski and using unnecessary energy. So keep the skis as parallel and as straight as you possibly can. You've probably noticed on your bindings you've got something called a riser, like an extra piece that can lock your heel just that little bit higher. I try and avoid using the riser as much as possible. It makes the ski wobble a little bit, makes it a little bit harder to grip on the ski. However, if it starts to get a bit steeper, you might find it a little bit easier just to click that riser into place. Just make sure you put the riser back down as soon as you can when it starts to level off once again. You've also got the crampons in your bag that I mentioned earlier, and the crampons are great when it starts to get firm. When the snow starts to get really icy, hard pack, or if it starts to get wet and spring-like and your skins just aren't gripping. Sticking those crampons underneath the toes can make the world of difference and make everything so much easier. But like with the risers, try not to leave them on too much. If you don't need them, take them off, because having that extra bit of weight under your foot and dragging the crampon through the snow is just unnecessary energy. So there's a quick intro to ski touring for you. A couple of little things to think about to make sure you're staying safe and making the most of your time on the mountain. Make sure you follow the channel for plenty more uploads, coming all the time and already uploaded, of course, about ski touring, about mountain adventures, and many other things on the channel. So stick with the ride along channel with me. It's time now for me to give these dogs a bit of an exercise, a bit of a run down a hill. So thanks for watching.